This was an occurrence that kindled my interest in ghosts and other supernatural entities. It was the winter of 2016 and I was excited about visiting Korg, also called Mudikeri, for my cousin's wedding. It is a small town located at a distance of 110 kilometers from Mysore in Karnataka, whose people mainly depend on coffee plantations and spices for their income. The day started as we had planned, with my uncle's family joining us on the trip, with the 16-year-old me hoping to have the time of my life in the next 4 days. Enough with the intro, let's dive right into the story. We reached our destination at around 10 p.m. and despite the warnings from the elderly in our family, we had requested our cousin's ancestral home, which was located in the middle of their coffee plantations, for our stay. This place had an eerie past. There were quite a few tittle-tattles about a plantation worker who had committed suicide near that house in her hut due to her partner's infidelity, leaving her newborn baby. During her death ceremony, the people present in the house were rattled by the screams of her baby, and when they rushed into her hut to check what was happening, they saw a black shadowy figure sitting and crying near the baby. The figure disappeared once they arrived, and the baby had apparently stopped its cries when the shadowy figure disappeared. My family, being firm non-believers of supernatural entities, heeded no attention to their warnings and insisted on staying at that house. The house had enough space to accommodate us, as it had 3 bedrooms and a big hall. After discussions on where and how we all slept, I was asked to sleep on the couch in the hall, to which I obliged, but little did I know what was about to happen later that night. The clock ticked 12 o'clock and I was still rolling from one side to another to find a comfortable position to doze off after a tiring 10-hour journey I had that day. The couch was too cramped for my 5 feet 10 frame, and to my surprise, my aunt, who was lying on the couch beside me, was also not asleep. This was a pleasant surprise for me, as I was already spooked by the stories I had earlier about that place, and her being awake meant I need not be awake alone. We started speaking on general stuff, and in no time the clock chimed, as the time was 12:30 already. It was at this point I heard the growling sound of a woman, and the sound seemed to be coming from somewhere far away. It was just constant growling with no apparent words, and just the thought of that sound gives chills down my spines even now. At first, I thought I was just hallucinating, but looking at the pale face of my aunt, I figured out I was not the only one hearing the sound. Our chit-chat stopped and we were keenly focusing on what that sound was and from where it was coming. The sound stopped after 10 odd minutes, and the relief was pretty clear on our faces. We smiled at each other only to hear that sound again, but this time even closer and louder than before. We were dumbstruck, not knowing what to do, and shut our eyes in fear. The sound kept coming nearer and nearer and stopped once again. Hoping whatever that was making the sound had left, I opened my eyes only to hear it again, but now right above me from the terrace of the house. The growling slowly moved from the terrace to the bedroom on my right and then near the house door. There was a transparent glass window covered with a screen near the door, through which I was able to see a shadowy woman-like figure. I looked at the glaring eyes of my aunt, which were now filled with tears of fright as the sound stopped once again. With both of us hoping for the emotional torture we were facing to end, there was a power failure, and the night lamp that was glowing until then stopped glowing, filling the room with darkness. In that dimness, I heard the growl right next to my head. That was the last thing I remembered when I woke up the next day, wishing it was nothing but a nightmare. I went and spoke to my aunt, who confirmed that it was not a nightmare but something that happened for real. No one from my family believed us when we explained what had happened the night before, except for my grandmother.